All right. Welcome back, guys. This is Coach Joe Bala of the Joe Bala Fitness Podcast. Welcome back. I'm here with my next guest. This is my friend, my CrossFit buddy. We've done a few races together in Spartan DEKA world, as well as taking on a High Rocks doubles. So this is why I want to bring him on. His name is Claudio. So Claudio is pretty amazing athlete as far as what I've seen so far, and I know he has amazing potential going forward, and I definitely want to see him grow and do some amazing things with his fitness. But I'm going to read you guys a quick bio about him. Okay, so he grew up in Mexico City, surrounded by sports. He began playing soccer from a young age. His inspiration was his maternal uncles, who were both gymnasts and track athletes. So they helped him model his discipline and his dedication. As far as athletics, his participation was emphasized in family culture, more important place on practicing than watching sports. His mother, standout athlete, he's told me a quick story about her, so I'm hoping he will share that with you guys. She played volleyball for the Mexican national team. As a youth, he swam competitively from ages 11 to 14 on the Mexican national swim team. His transition here to the States, he moved to San Diego as a teenager with no knowledge of English. He integrated into community through sports by joining the swim team, water polo team, and soccer team. His athletic endeavors served as a bridge for social connection and cultural adjustment. In his adult life, he's turned to fitness as a crucial coping mechanism to navigate depression, anxiety, grief, and loss. Definitely connect with him on that. He overcame years of functioning as an alcoholic while working in the high-pressure service industry. Fitness became a pathway to recovery, offering structure, discipline, and a positive outlet for emotions. He views fitness as a powerful tool for self-expression, empowerment, humility, and peace. I love that. And he believes in the transformative power of movement. Definitely connect with that as well, both physically and mentally, as part of long-term well-being. His current commitment. He continues to live by these principles, engaging in regular training and competing in hybrid and functional fitness competitions. He's passionate about helping others tap into fitness, not just as exercise, but as a source of healing and growth. Claudio, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome, brother. Appreciate you being on here. So I do this with every guest. That was an amazing bio. I definitely love everything you touched on there because it hits a lot of points that people who are watching, who are listening can connect with and can resonate with. So those people that are watching, listening, they may not know who you are, obviously, unless they met you with, through training with me on the weekly runs that we do on Wednesdays. Everyone listening, watching, join us on Wednesdays at 5 a.m. We have a run crew. CrossFit at Croga Fitness. We do DEKA together with my company, Joe Bala Fitness, and then I host events at CrossFit of Fremont, and now I brought DEKA and hybrid style training to Croga recently, which we will touch on as well. But Claudio, I definitely told you this at the beginning. I'm going to give you 1 minute. I want you to do your 1 minute elevator pitch about yourself and whatever you want to share. Okay, ready? I'm going to count you down. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. Yes. I mean, I'm a regular person, from a regular background. I think there's really nothing that particularly special about me other than, this willingness to thrive and to live, to find what is authentic within myself and in the world. And I've been fortunate enough to run into people that have a similar mindset, a similar North Star, including you, you're one of them for sure. And then, that has allowed me to overcome some of the hardest challenges. I think fitness has been a pivotal skill, or really just a philosophy of life that has gotten me through everything that has come so far. So
I love it. Well, I'm grateful for you to be on here, brother. Yes, I remember the first time we met was at Croga Fitness. This is a gym that's in San Jose, border of Campbell, right? And small gym, like I feel like one of the best gyms I've ever, been a member at.
Yeah.
Coach Cody, the CEO or GM of the gym, and then just the coaches, Coach Nick, Coach Carmen, Coach Taylor, who I'm missing, Coach Devin. Did I miss anyone?
Dr. Julia was
Julia, yeah, Coach Julia. So she was there. Dr. Julia is a physical therapist. Interestingly enough, she knows Dr. Joel Pasquale, who is the owner of CrossFit of Fremont. So it was just like a really, small world. Coach Carmen knows the owner of Brickhouse Fitness, Coach George. So like all these connections, I feel like in my life are happening. Just kind of, we talked about this when we first met, was just like these things kind of fall into your lap, is essentially, or fall into your path, your journey, and they just happen, and there's a reason why they happen, because up above, God is kind of putting these people in your life, and they want you to succeed and do some amazing things with your purpose, your passion, your mission, your vision, whatever it is. And Claudio happens to be one of those people for me too. So I appreciate you just sharing that with the audience, the listeners, the viewers. So again, going back to our story, Claudio and I met during my month, what was it, member of the month workout?
That's right, yeah.
I got selected. I remember Claudio was selected at one point too. There's a lot of members that get selected, and it's an honor. I didn't think that would have happened for me, because I've been dealing with coming back from depression, anxiety, and I was just trying to get out of my head, and honestly just putting in the work. And I guess Coach Cody and the other coaches saw something in me, and they wanted me to share my story, and I shared that through my passion for movement. And they eventually found out that I was a coach, a trainer. When I joined the gym, I didn't share that, and I did not share that, no. And Coach Nick, he was my first coach in one of my classes, and he's like, he mentioned to me, he saw me doing a barbell back squat. That was the workout for the day, or the main movement of the day. He said something like, "Man, Joe, that you move like butter," or something like that. That's how he talks, right? And I was like, I didn't say much because I was still in my head at the time, coming out of this depression, anxiety, and I just said thank you, And then he's like, "What do you do, Joe?" I'm like, I shared my previous career, which I was an engineer. I was like, yeah, I was a former engineer, and kind of in between jobs right now. And I honestly was at the time, because I didn't know if I could go back to coaching, I could go back to training. And my sister-in-law, Kat, who I think you met in some of the classes, early morning classes, she decided to bring me in as a member, just at a I forget what workout it was, like Labor Day workout, whatever. And then eventually that led to this member of the month workout. And I programmed it with the intention of introducing everyone to DEKA, not knowing, they didn't know that it was DEKA. And there was a running component to it, and then box jump, burpee, right? Box jump, burpee, or was it burpee, box jump, over, I think, and then
there was a handstand hold.
Handstand hold, yes. Handstand
10 seconds or 30 seconds, something crazy like that.
30 seconds. Yeah, after a run. And then there was box jump in there, right? Because I love box jump, anything, burpees, anything. And then my favorite move with the barbell Olympic lifting is barbell snatch, right? So yes. I was like, I'm just gonna throw in everything in there and just get people moving. And the amazing thing was Claudio, he was like, man, I love that workout, right? And then everyone else started saying the same thing. And after class, the next day, and I was like, wow, I think I can do this again, coach again, train people again, and program again, because that's what I do as a coach trainer. And then I motivate, and sometimes I'll be hard and push people, but I motivate a lot of people just by me moving, you know, and it's pretty powerful what you can do with movement.
Mhm.
Right? And they say, everyone knows this, movement is medicine, or should know this by now. If they don't, look it up. It is true. There's some research behind that. And so when Claudio and I were running these 400-meter loops, we were connecting, and he mentioned, I don't know how we even started talking about this, but I think I mentioned I've done DEKA, and then you said,
You had done a DEKA event the weekend before.
"Oh, that's right."
And then your partner for that DEKA event couldn't make it, so you actually pulled Rob from Croga,
Yes.
who was a beast, by the way. He's like no better person to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so then when we were warming up, you were talking about that, and you kept saying this like DEKA thing. I was like, oh, what is this guy talking about? What is DEKA? I had no clue, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what happened. That's how we
Oh,
started talking about it.
that's right. Okay.
And then that's when I said, oh, that's interesting, because my partner for the Hierarchs coming up in February, I think we were like 3 months out at that
Mm-hmm.
point. It was November, I think.
Yep.
He's MIA, had the tickets. At this point, I'm pretty sure he's not gonna do it. What a, you know, at that point I thought, oh, maybe I'll ask him. But I didn't ask you right away. I wanted to go through the workout first and see what I thought of you after.
You were assessing me. You're like, is this guy up to par, right?
I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like him after this workout.
That's awesome. No, that's fair. You have to judge me based on what I can do in the workout, how we connect and all that stuff, right? So yeah, you mentioned Rob. So this Rob Noakes, his story is pretty awesome. He's done Spartan race, he's done cross country running. He told me that. And yeah, he's just a beast. You know, in class, he crushes all the workouts that involve pretty much anything, you know, running included. And yeah, and I happened to partner with him on my very first DEKA event coming back from my like depression, anxiety episode. And my sister, my wife, were there when that happened, you know, when I did my first event back. And yeah, I still have to share some content on that. I just haven't got around to it, but I'll probably share that here very soon. But yeah, just getting out there again. Rob definitely pushed me to realize, like, man, I can do this, you know. And I thought I was done with it. You know, I started my very first DEKA was in 2021. I started a DEKA, I think it was DEKA Strong. You haven't met him yet, Coach Frank. He's up in Vacaville. At some point, I'm sure I'll introduce you to him. But yeah, so coming back to DEKA in 2024 after being away, it was tough. Like mentally, I was like, man, I don't know if I could do this. Anxiety was like up here talking, right? And you know, that's what anxiety does. It makes individuals be overly concerned about what's going to happen in the future,
Mm-hmm.
versus depression, which is like things that happen in the past. Like that's a simple way to kind of explain it to people. And anxiety can cause individuals to kind of ruminate their thoughts over and over and over and over. It's kind of like a broken record playing, and it's not a good place to be in and to feel and all that. So question, I guess, for you then is, you mentioned here in your bio, like you use fitness as a crucial coping mechanism for depression, anxiety, grief, and loss. So could you touch on that for the listeners and the viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really there's this concept of synchronicity that keeps coming back to my mind right now. You know, and it applies to how fitness has been this sort of golden key or this like skeleton key that has allowed me to open doors that I didn't know were in front of me, because of all the darkness around me, right? Or because of the nebulous circumstances I found myself in.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of them being, I don't know, let's say 12 years old, 11 years old. I didn't think I was good at anything. I grew up away from my parents. I didn't have a very good self-esteem. I'm starting to become an adolescent of sorts, and I just didn't really know where I belonged, And in fact, I was starting to convince myself from that very early age that I didn't belong anywhere, like I'm just an outcast, Obviously didn't understand the complexities of the world, and didn't understand why my mom couldn't be around and all of that, right? And I think that was one of the first times I found that key, right? And I started swimming at this sort of private club, and within a few months, some of the coaches were nice enough to then invite me to a public, to practice with in the public system where you can actually train to become part of the national team. And then that became my focus. Like, that's what I love to do from that point forward. Before that, I didn't even know how to swim. I was like one of those like older kids that like just didn't want to get in the pool, like in the deep end,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, here I am, like, competing.
Yeah. I love it.
Any stroke, like freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly, anything. I just wanted more of it, And that gave me a sense of place. That gave me a sense of identity, right? Like, I'm not any of these things, fine, but I know I'm this. I'm a swimmer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, that sort of gets, gets taken away in a sense, because then my mom comes back. She had been working in the United States, and she comes back to Mexico City to pick me up and say overnight, like, we gotta go. Like her company was gonna sponsor her for residency, so that was a free green card for me, underage, right? I'm 15 years old at the time, and obviously at that point I thought I knew what I was going to do with my life, and overnight my mom says, no, let's go. Move to San Diego. And yeah, that's the first time I experienced a deep depression, where I had no intention to go anywhere. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to leave my room. I didn't know how to speak English, so there was no way for me to connect.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't find a way to connect, at least. And then shortly after that, and shortly I mean, within a year or so, I reached into my pocket and realized, I have the skeleton key again. Swimming. San Diego. Clicked. It opened up a door.
Yeah.
Like, wow. I don't know what they're saying, but I know what I need to do.
Right.
Like, cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they didn't know what I was saying, but they liked what I was doing. So then now I'm part of the team.
Yeah. I love it.
Now I'm part of a larger group, And just like that, I mean, fast forward to when I was, an adult, I don't know if I ever gotten there, but, in the process of becoming an adult, I got so self-absorbed in my titles and my profession, my professional responsibilities, in my power of acquisition. And the more I had, the less the less I felt spiritually.
Mm.
So I depleted myself to this point of going back to not really feeling any joy for anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was drinking consistently because I thought that was part of my job, working at hotels and restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had always had a job, I never considered it an addiction. I don't ask anything from anybody. I support my mom. I support myself, you know. I don't ask anything from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I have this, I have this, I have that. Things to show to the world that I've made something of myself, you know.
Right.
But I was empty, so I kept drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, nothing terrible happened. Fortunately, I mean, a lot of terrible things happened that didn't make me change.
Mm.
It was just a random day that I just felt like I had had enough. You know?
Mm.
And I felt like, you know, a few days after that, after not drinking for a couple of days and seeking out help, you know, I actually had gone to my mom's door, you know, and I didn't have a key that day, so I had to knock and I had to ask for help,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah. I didn't know how I had gotten there, but I knew that I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know how to stop. So, you know, with her unconditional love, and it was just a moment of acceptance, man. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Acceptance of the fact that I was empty and I needed to recalibrate, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, I found that skeleton key again, and I started doing CrossFit. And yeah, I mean, at first it took a little longer this time for me to walk through that door. I remember Ray, he's also part of the community. He's a good friend. He was a coach at that gym I was going to, and man, I stopped going for a while, a couple of days, and he called me out of the blue. I'm like, what's up, dude? It's like, yeah, hey, man, like, I would just want to know what's going on. Why you haven't been at the gym for a while?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I just don't think CrossFit is for me. It's like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, I'm just not good at it. You know, I'm just not good. So I was still in that mindset of like, if you're not good, then what's the point of it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have acolytes, if you don't have anything to show, then why do it?
Mm-hmm.
I was still sick.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, right? And she was like, well, if you don't show up, you're not going to get any better.
Mm-hmm.
It's something so simple.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. You're absolutely right. But you know what? He cared.
Yes.
He cared. And it was that connection, right? It's like that human connection that makes a difference. And looking back, like, that's when, like, one side of the skeleton key is fitness and the other side of it is human connection.
Mm-hmm.
That's what got me through it. That's what gave purpose to my life, you know, to move forward.
That's powerful.
And since then, my life has changed, you know, yet again. I no longer work in restaurants and hotels. I was able to find my way back to school and give back, you know, to the community. So now I work in addiction medicine. I'm a psychotherapist, and I dedicate my life to paying it forward.
Mm. I love that. That's beautiful, man. I thank you for sharing all that, Claudio. Like, that story is like, when you told me that in person, you know, through many workouts together, running together, training for High Rocks, training for DEKA Mile, right? And we have these multiple conversations. Yeah, you summed it up in the amount of time you shared that with, and that's a powerful story. People, they tend to as we age, obviously we tend to not reflect, and that's why it's important to share our story. Like, where did we start? How did we get to where we are today? And each this is kind of how, when I coach my clients, is your journey is a book, right? And you're writing chapters every time, and each chapter is going to have multiple pages, obviously, but once you're ready, you're going to flip the page and write the next chapter. And right now you're in this next chapter, which is amazing, and I'm very grateful to be part of it with you. And you being in the space that you are, helping others, paying it forward, that's powerful. And for you to do that, that's to change from one industry to another, it's not easy. It's like two different worlds essentially. And I kind of went through a similar path. I was an engineer, and then I became a coach trainer, and why? Because I want to pay forward all the things I've learned through fitness as my medium, and how I want to share my mental health journey, depression, anxiety, all that stuff that I've dealt with to this point, and help someone that's listening, that's watching, get to the next chapter. Because if we don't continue turning these pages and getting to those next chapters, how are we going to continue like growing, and how are we going to continue like living and building and like inspiring like someone that's watching or listening, right? We need to continue doing these things, and that's the power of being a leader in whatever space it is. Being someone that is intrinsically motivated like you. I'm the same. We need to remember, like, when we do things, we're potentially influencing and inspiring this next person, right? And anyone else that we cross paths with, right? So touching on something you wrote on your philosophy, you mentioned here self-expression, empowerment, humility, peace. I love that. And there's this transformative power of movement that you talk about. For me, very similar. Holistically, I approach this fitness movement journey the same. I look at it physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, because all these things factor into how we show up daily. So can you touch on this point of your philosophy on fitness a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's I'll use the analogy of continue to write this book, of your story, of my story, of our story, right? So when I find myself being depressed, I found myself in a way uninspired to continue to develop these characters, at least continue to develop my character. Right? I had nothing else to write. I had writer's block. I had nothing else to do. I had no inspiration. Right? And the challenge with that, the added challenge to that, is that the book will continue to write itself, even if we're not contributing to it. Even if we're not writing our own story, the book will continue to write itself. The next thing you know, you have a full chapter of all of these things that have happened that you did not choose at all. Yeah, now you just have the weight of all these pages on top of you. So now it feels even harder to get to. Right, and that's when, just fitness has allowed me to pick up that pen again. and write my name. Okay. Write today's date. Write who I love today. Write about who am I grateful for today. You know. And then all of a sudden, you're just flowing again. Right? Fitness gives me this freedom to not be in conflict with the world, not be in conflict with myself, but really just flow. Right? I think it's there's definitely a chemical process behind it, but I like to think of it as something, you know, more esoteric and magical, right? Like it really is like the human spirit being free, you know, to really play around in the world, right? Like fitness gives us this way of bringing us back to this moment of choice, right? Bringing us back to I talk about this moment of choice in addiction quite a bit, but we can talk about it in this terms as like self-expression. I'm gonna make a choice right now to go to the gym, to go to the 5 a.m. you know, Joe Bala Fitness running club. You know what I mean? That's my choice. I can also choose to rest, and that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah.
So, but as long as it's my choice,
right?
Then I'm writing. I'm part of this. I'm part of the story, right? So now I'm asserting who I am. I'm expressing my spirit. I'm letting it be free. You know, and in that sense, in almost like in the sense of letting go, it's sort of like the yin yang, right? You let go, and then as you let go, you feel more empowered.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, is the path of least resistance.
Yes.
All of a sudden, we're flowing again, right? And we flow through these moments of like effort, of maximum effort, right? So we feel it in our body, how it's just like the lactic acid is building up and the oxygen is depleting, and we're just in our heart is at zone 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And then it's over. And it's such a humbling experience, right? Like you put in everything you had, and now you're back to just realizing like, yeah, I'm just a human being. This is good. I give it all, you know. It didn't change everything, but it contributed to my story, and that's good enough. That's my piece.
That's amazing. I love that. You just put it into like amazing words. Like, I'm a big Bruce Lee fan, and like he talks about like self-expression through movement, right? And that's honestly how I feel. I'm sure you're the same. Is like when I go to CrossFit workouts, like today's workout. I don't know if you did it, but what was the workout? Oh, it was simple. It was like it was just chaining together the air bike and a barbell complex, which was squat clean into a thruster, you know, and then it just, and 1 minute of work every time. And it's just like so simple, the programming. But like, I feel, yeah, when I went in, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm feeling it today because I worked out yesterday. That was a tough workout. But today, once I started going, I was like, okay, I feel this like sense of empowerment, enlightenment, things like you were saying. And I was expressing myself through these movements that they teach us in class, right? And they want us to get better at. And that's all it is. Like people that have not tried CrossFit before or anything like it, you should try it. You know, people that are watching, that are listening, like you don't know until you know, right? That's something I learned from one of my mentors in the fitness space. He was my manager, Dan Benton. He was actually my first guest on my very first podcast interview, and a very first podcast episode. And he mentioned that to me in person as I was learning the ways of becoming a personal trainer and a coach. He's like, people don't know, they don't know what they don't know, right? And it's so simple. And the same with this CrossFit experience. Like, I've gone through my own fitness journey, you know, and it's so weird. I touched on CrossFit like early on, and then I kind of moved away and did something else. And then I did Ninja Warrior, then I did Spartan Race, then I got into DEKA, went back to CrossFit, and then I got back in, and then now it's High Rocks and DEKA and CrossFit. It's just like amazing to be in this space and to share that journey with you. And sharing the story that this chapter, you know, we're writing, right? So with that said, like getting into the next question I have for you, that you kind of touched on it a little bit like earlier. You know, what or who is your motivation to do what you do daily? You know, like you mentioned earlier, 5 a.m. Joe Bala Fitness. I call it JB Fit Run Crew. If everyone that's watching or listening, hashtag it on Instagram, JB Fit Run Crew. You'll see some images or stories that I put up and the crew members have put up. It started small. It's just actually me and my brother-in-law, Mike Avino, and then Claudio decided to join. Mike decided to pop out. I don't know what a reason, because he was intimidated by Claudio.
Yeah, he needs to come back, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him to come back, and he's still doing his thing on his own, but he's a busy guy, so I get it. But I keep teasing him to get back in it. And then so Claudio joined, and then all of a sudden we had another person join and another person join. It just kind of it's growing organically. And now my sister, the younger sister, Cynthia, is the next person that's going to be joining. As we're recording this, she's going to be joining this week. I actually went to help her pick up a set of running shoes for her that were a good fit. So my motivation is my family, you know, making sure that each of them, my wife included, my daughter, my sister, my brother-in-law, my mom is in her 70s now, making sure they're doing some form of movement. And some days they listen to me, some days they don't, if I put on my coach hat. But like for you, what's important for you? What drives you? What's your daily motivation to do these things?
Man, I think there's so many things, but definitely family is important to me, right? I think a lot about, you know, the people that are still, you know, in the process of finding a recovery space, you know, from their addiction. I think about them a lot, you know, when I'm engaged in the process, you know, when I'm in like running, for example. Because talking about self-expression, right? Like, okay, you get comfortable with CrossFit, but then it's time to like experience something else, right? Like, okay, so then that's when like hybrid training came around, and like that's been so rewarding, and it reminds me every day of investing in a way. Like the inspiration is investing in that kid that felt lost when he was, I don't know, 6 to 12 years old. I had this sense that I didn't belong anywhere. But he belongs to me.
Yeah.
He lives within me.
Yeah. That's powerful.
He inspires me every day.
Yeah.
To get on that track and be in community, and pay tribute to my body, to my temple, you know. To pay it forward and to also invest, right, in the future, because what I'm doing right now is also setting me up for more freedom in the future, freedom to move, freedom to pick up things, you know, freedom to, you know, run away from zombies, as you always say. You know what I mean? Like, just there's power in being able to move your body and use it, you know.
100%. Yeah.
So yeah, that I would say it's that kid in me, you know.
Inner kid. Okay. Inner child. I love it. Yeah, I can touch on that too. Like this inner child in me, that's why I love Ninja Warrior so much. When I jump on obstacles and I can swing and climb and jump and do these crazy things, like the only reason I'm able to do those things is because I take care of my body. I'm 46 now, and that's the only reason I can do those things, and that's what brings me joy. You touched on joy earlier. So joy is a very powerful word that my buddy at he's a coach at Burlingame Fitness, where I also have clients, and his name is Joe Pisano, who I also will get on this podcast at some point. I keep trying to schedule him in, but he talks about joy a lot, and this is the reason why he is able to do things he loves to do, and he's able to bring light to that word for his clients. And you know, me being his colleague, when I see the guy, he lights the room up, you know. And there's days where I come in and I might be worn out from the earlier start of my day, which is usually 4 a.m., 5 a.m. And I come in there at, you know, in the evening or afternoon, and he's just like, Joe, he like welcomes me. And it's like, he had this conversation with me about like, I want you to get back on Ninja Warrior. He told me that. He said, I want you to get back on there because I know that brings you joy, 100%. I said, yes, sir. And, you know, I'm trying to get back there. I'm doing these other things, obviously, to maintain my fitness, build on it. And eventually the goal for me is like the 10-year goal, 2029. I got on the show in 2019. 2029, that's 10 years of working on myself. I obviously tried to apply every year since. It's very hard to get on Ninja Warrior, but going back to that word joy, like that's movement for me is joy. You know, fitness, any kind is joy. Doesn't matter if I lift weights in just regular strength training or do CrossFit or do DEKA training, High Rocks hybrid training, Spartan race, Ninja Warrior, like all of that brings me joy. And that's what that feeds that inner child in me. And I'm sure, and that relates to what you just shared with me, right? So, so I kind of want to touch base on now this High Rock story. We led up to it, I think in an 8-week plan. Like, I think, I don't remember exactly now. Maybe it might have been 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's closer, 6.5, something like that. Yes.
Yeah, and I remember texting you. I said, hey, I was like, we're coming up on this High Rocks event, you know, knowing I'm a coach, like, hey, we're coming up on this High Rocks event. It's like 6 weeks out, right? 6.5 weeks out. And I was already like planning out the programming, and I was like, that's close, right? So generally, you know, you want to train at least 8 weeks, ideally 10, even better 12 weeks for something like that, you know, depending on how you want to perform. Obviously the output or the result of your training is going to be shown and reveal itself when you do an event, right? And I'm very big on celebrating your fitness. That's something that DEKA has taught us as DEKA athletes, but also me as a DEKA affiliate. Yancey Culp is the co-creator of that. But they talk about that a lot. Celebrate your fitness, because you do your event, you do your race. Like, I think it's very, very important to realize, like, don't go in there so serious, because you've trained, you put on all that effort, that time, that energy over 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks. Like, why not celebrate and just perform and have fun, right? And I think for you and I, like doing High Rocks doubles training showed a lot about our fitness levels, how we can work together and complement one another. Like, you're a very strong athlete. You're like one of the strongest guys I've met in CrossFit. And you know, I think you saw in me, oh, this guy can run, right? I mean, I had good strength as well, but like, this guy can run, right? So and it's funny that you thought you felt that way, because I never thought I was a good runner. And I guess I do run pretty well, but being 46, there's times where my back hurts, my knee hurts, and now I'm dealing with this like thoracic outlet syndrome. Those that are watching or listening, there's this like triangular place right here. And if I reach overhead, if you're watching this video, like, it can get numb if I just hold it like this overhead. So thinking about wall balls, right? Like 100 reps by myself, that's tough. Like I would probably, my arm would go numb, my hand would go numb, but like doing high rocks doubles with Claudio here, like that allowed us to kind of split up the reps, right? So planning out the training was really fun for me because I've done DEKA Fit teams before, which is a different beast in itself because that's 500-meter loops, 10 zones or stations. High rocks is double that running distance, 1,000 meters, and 8 stations, right, or zones, right? So thinking about all that, you know, planning the training, knowing that we both do CrossFit, that we both do, you know, I got you into running more or running differently, right? So maybe can you touch on your experience training with me, you know, being a High Rocks doubles training partner and like going to class, you know, sessions that I would coach? Like what was your experience the whole time? Just kind of expand on that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I talk about humbling moments, right? Because I remember when I first asked you to be my partner, I mean, we finished that workout and I was like, oh, I like this guy. You know, it was a great workout. I got through it and it sucked for a minute, but I got through it. I really enjoyed it. So he's cool, right?
Yeah.
So, and I asked you to be my partner that day. And even when we drove home and everything, we were texting back and forth. Like I had no clue you were a coach.
Yeah.
You know, like that was the first time I met you. So later on, like then realizing like, oh my God, like this guy's an actual pro. Like what am I doing? You know? Man, it's been a blessing, for sure. Just your approach is genuine, you know, it makes people believe in themselves, you know, it's empowering, genuinely empowering, you know, so it feels like it comes from a place of care, you know, like you really connect with a person, you know, not just with the process, but you're like the bridge between the process and the person, right? Because I'm a regular person, I'm a regular dude, right? Like I am not a coach, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like I love sports and I wish I could be good at really good at any of them, but I only practice them, right? I mean, everybody who went to IROX, for example, from our gym, they're all coaches or PE teachers or, you know, physical therapists, right? But you give me this sense that I can do it. I can tackle that, right? You know, it's I can explore that part of myself, you know, and see where it takes me, you know, see what else is there, right? I mean, I didn't know about running zones, right? I've heard of them, but I never really like. There wasn't really a concept, right? That I hadn't internalized the concept in a sense. It was just an expression for me. Whereas, like, you know, working with you, now I see it as part of my internal programming. You know, I'm thinking about it throughout the day. You know, yeah. It's like I said, I'm more engaged in the process because you build that bridge for me. You welcome me into that process. I think that's one of the most powerful things I've experienced by, you know, literally running into you. You know what I mean? So it's been great, man. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. You're welcome. I love that you touch on that running zone or heart rate zones, right? Like I have a lot of conversations with people about that because they don't, myself included, my own journey. When I used to just train running, I didn't really care too much about heart rate zones or where I was running in those zones. I just went out and did it, you know. And one of my endeavors was trying to prove my wife and my brother-in-law Chris that I could run a full marathon. You know, I'm not a natural runner, not a long distance runner. I used to, as a youth, younger teen athlete, I was on track and field, like doing track and field, like short distance, like 100-meter, 200-meter, 400-meter running. But to do a 5K, 10K, half marathon, full marathon, that was a different beast altogether. And so I had to kind of learn on the go, if you will. And obviously, once I became a coach trainer, I've educated myself and learned from the people I need to learn from, these teachers and mentors. Like, this is what you need to do, right? This is what you should do. And there's so much more to it. And I'm not afraid to admit that I'm a lifelong learner. And there's always going to be new research and things like that coming out that says, do this instead of this, that we've been doing for 20, 30 years, right? So with respect to your running, how do you feel you're running today versus running when you first started training with me? You know, we do weekly runs Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. Those that are interested, reach out to me, DM me, you know, because we have a pretty good run crew that we're building. And I'm very honored each time anyone shows up, you know, especially, you know, anyone that wants to do a High Rocks or wants to do a DEKA or wants to do a Spartan race. I can pretty much teach anyone that joins what you need to learn and enlighten you on that, right? So if you want to learn, right? So what have you found for your running fitness has improved, you know, since starting?
Dramatically. I mean, you know, I think it was around, maybe around this time when I started training for the triathlon at Croga. That posted like at the end of August, which is right before you joined.
Oh yeah.
Right before you joined. And I figured, you know, okay, so one thing I really need to build is an engine. You know, like I feel like now I have the strength to get through the workouts, but I burn out, you know, pretty quickly, or, you know, I don't have the stamina to just do even lightweight training, you know, for a long period of time. So I thought, okay, this is going to be a good challenge, right? Like, let's train for a triathlon. And so I probably trained for like 3-4 months on my own, and I did all right. I mean, I went through it, right? But then after training with you, my trip, like, there has been structure to my training, and it's not just running, right? Like, running is a main component for sure. But I think there's just more structure to why I do everything that I do. It's not just philosophically motivating, right? Like, oh, what's my reason? You know, I'm really good at that, at finding like in the intrinsic motivation, as you mentioned, right? Like why I do what I do, you know. But then people like me like require some structure, right? I'm all over the place, you know, and I'm like, I can find meaning in things, but sometimes I just need to put my head down and get things done.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with that. And you have allowed me to do that.
Yeah.
Giving me some tools to like pay attention to and focus on my training. And I mean, it's been a dramatic change, you know, like I would say one of the biggest surprises going into High Rocks was being like, I think our average run was like 4 minutes, right here, 4 minutes and 8 seconds faster than the average team.
Nice.
Like you with me, like we had to run together at my pace, and we were faster than most people. Like that is, I don't even care about the rest, right? Like that's just like in itself is a huge accomplishment. You know? I think it was what was it, like 42 minutes 34 seconds. So that's like just a little over 5 minutes.
Yeah.
For me, that is huge for someone, you know, 225 pounds that has never really been good at running.
Yeah.
You know, being able to do something like that, it was unimaginable. Like that's the best way I can describe it.
Oh wow.
So
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. No, the data is the data, right? Like we wrote that data, you know, through a lot of training, a lot of effort, energy. not easy, right? There was moments I remember, I forget what station it was. I think it was after, maybe it was after the sled pull. I can't remember now.
It was after the burpees.
Was it after the burpee?
No, it was after the row.
After the row?
Before the lunges.
Yeah. Oh, that's
run.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so we had that time, that running time, including those, what was it, like 30 seconds, or if not longer, of us having to stop because I was cramping up.
Yeah.
Like pull my legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Synchronized. Like talk about synchronicity again. Like they both, like they synchronized the cramping.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, I remember we hung right. I signaled to anyone that was running, like, we're going this way. And like, yeah, I had you do some stretching and things like that and worked on you to get it to loosen up. Fortunately, it loosened up enough where we could finish, right?
Yeah.
And that's a scary moment when it happens. And I don't know if you ever had that kind of feeling before. I've had that a few times, like maybe once or twice in Spartan race, especially the beast. If you're not hydrated well enough, if you didn't sleep well enough, you didn't, prep well enough, you're gonna hit a wall, and that's what happened, right? So, and then I remember after you cramped, I think this was during the lunge when my right leg started cramping as I was lunging, and I was like, oh no, here we go, right again. And I think I remember you saying in my ear, like, you want to switch? I'm like, no. I was like, I got this. And so I just shook my leg out, and then just finally just kind of went and finished that lap that I was on, because we switched about halfway, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I needed you to recover because you were going to pick up that turn, right? And then at some point I think you started cramping again, maybe, and then I picked it up the last half, right? And so yeah, it's just insane, this race, particularly because we're out there so long. You can never really be 100% prepped for it, unless you're able to train like multiple times a day and recover well, throughout. Is obviously we both have jobs, we have careers, and we're working, so it's tough to balance that all, right? And anyone that's listening and watching, they if they've done this High Rocks race or done a DEKA Fit, it's a different animal compared to these shorter distances, right? So DEKA Fit is something I want to transition to that now. We're gonna do a DEKA Fit teams together.
Yes.
Right. Coming up on May 3rd in NorCal. The only time we've done DEKA together was the DEKA Mile that I hosted at CrossFit of Fremont back in late January 25th, right?
Yep.
So knowing we did a mile that day and knowing that we're going to do a 5K on May 3rd, how are you feeling about that right now? Like, as we're talking, you are still coming off being, feeling not 100%, because you got sick after, what did you get sick after? From running, or was it High Rocks? Or you just feeling sick? Right?
It could have been after that run. It was like
Atlas, right? Maybe DEKA Atlas.
We did Atlas, yeah. Did Atlas. And I was fine. I was recovering. I mean, my body was recovering after that, but I didn't feel sick. But it was probably the run after that. So Atlas was on a Saturday. I think it was a Saturday. And then I went back to the gym on Monday and Tuesday. And then I ran on Wednesday morning, and it was raining that day.
Yeah.
So I think it could have been like I didn't give my body enough rest. And then on top of that, I ran for an hour, on the terrain. Because hey, no excuses, right? And then by Saturday, I was not doing it. So
yeah.
But to answer your question, I feel excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
That's gonna be, it's gonna be a fun test.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when we did DEKA Mile together, we'd never done a DEKA together. The same with when I did the DEKA Mile with Rob DEKA Mile teams. So when you and I did that end of January, I came up with a strategy for us to go in, and then you reviewed it, and then you felt like, okay, let's change some things, right? Obviously playing to our strengths. And now we have this DEKA Fit coming up, 500-meter runs and then 10 zones. We run the first 2 laps together and then the last 2 laps. And in between, we just kind of decide who runs when, right?
Yes.
So knowing how we felt and performed at DEKA Mile, which is, I think we both hit the fence on the air bike, DEKA Zone 7.
Yes.
Everyone's favorite. That's me being sarcastic. Going into DEKA Fit, that's going to be another like wall potentially we're going to hit. But, today's CrossFit workout, it was involving air bikes. I don't know if you're going to be going to class later this evening, but, that's something I definitely want to improve upon, going in, putting my coach hat back on. So what do you feel was challenging for you in DEKA Mile, and what do you feel might be challenging for you going into DEKA Fit?
For me, what was challenging, again, it was the finding a consistent pace.
Mm-hmm.
I think because I perceived them as like short distances, like 160 something meter runs.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like there was this need to like sprint every time, but I also try to rush through the stations.
Yeah.
Which is probably like what we're supposed to do, but like my body wasn't ready for that. So I think this gives us more leeway in the sense that like, okay, 500 meters, this is more towards what we've been working on.
Mm-hmm.
It's more inclined towards what we've been working on in like for high rocks, for example.
Correct. Yeah.
There's a longer period of running, compromise running, right? And then just being comfortable in that discomfort,
mm-hmm.
right? Because I remember, I think it was the second to last run. No, it was the last run for the DEKA Mile.
DEKA Mile, yeah.
And I just tapped out. And I keep going back to that moment. I was like, man, if I would have just like kept going,
yeah,
not stop at all, like just keep moving.
Yeah.
We would have a much better time.
Yeah.
Much better or faster mark.
Yeah.
But hey, it's you live and you learn.
Yes, exactly. You live and you learn. Exactly. You only learn by doing, right? And
yes,
that's kind of a learning moment for sure. What's interesting you mentioned that is I had to get in your head, like, being the coach that I am, I got in your head. I was like, we got this, we're going to finish this. And I think for a moment you needed to walk a little bit because your legs were just done. Your body was done. I was like, we're going to walk a little bit, but as soon as we hit this point, we're going to run. And then I got you to the point where you're like, all right, let's run back in. Right. And it happened. And I can't remember the exact time. There was a younger team, male team. Drew is one of them. I forgot who he teamed up with. He's from Brick House Fitness. We were just under, or we were just slightly behind them. We could have beat them.
Yes.
And it's just, again, learning moment. Like, okay, what do we need to do to improve our conditioning so that we can do shorter distances and push harder? And that's kind of what ties into the heart rate zones, like heart rate. So think zone 4, zone 5. Can we make ourselves more efficient in those zones where we feel uncomfortable, but also building that base that we need to continue to build, zone 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very big on building a bigger base because that's going to ultimately carry over into how you perform at the higher end, right?
Definitely.
And so, being respectful of your time too, I want to make sure we start to wrap up here. I want to understand for you, like, training with me, doing high rocks now, or high rocks doubles, DEKA Mile teams. Now we're going to do DEKA Fit teams. Where do you feel like, for the rest of 2025, do you want to, what other events are you thinking of wanting to do? We talk about this just leading into this, podcast episode. High Rocks Anaheim, I sent you an invite on your calendar and you accepted. So that means we're going to do that. What else are you thinking for the rest of the year? Are you planning on or wanting to try anything else? Functional fitness wise or hybrid fitness or, Spartan race or anything, Spartan DEKA?
Yes, I actually, I'm looking forward to that. I'm glad that you brought up High Rocks because I do think that's something I would love to do again. So we're going to do that I think it's in December.
Yes.
Yes. So there may be another one before that. I don't know. But definitely in December.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're doing the one in May. The DEKA Fit in May. I want to find another DEKA Atlas.
Okay.
And then I want to do a DEKA mile and possibly a DEKA Fit on my own.
Okay.
Yeah, just to get a mark and see, just to have it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes. And maybe either a triathlon or a Spartan race, something long distance.
Like a Spartan beast.
Something like that. Because I've done the sprint before. So even a sprint would be fine. That was long enough for me.
Yeah, that's it can be long enough, right? Depending on how much running you're comfortable with, right? That's because that's a 5K distance. Then you got super, which is 10K.
Oh, so I did the super then.
You did super. Okay, so 10K is the super, and then the beast is like a half marathon essentially. I plan to get back into Spartan race myself some point soon, probably in the summer. But yeah, we also need to tackle DEKA Strong teams together. I think this is something we talked about. So my next event is those are listening, watching. It's coming up on April 26th and 27th. I'm hosting DEKA Mile and DEKA Strong that weekend at CrossFit of Fremont. So definitely find it on my Instagram at Joe Bala Fitness on my bio. You can see the registration link there. Fill up those spots. We definitely would love to see you there. Actually, Claudio is one of my judges now. He's amazing. He's one of the top performing judges. He'll take you through from start to finish. And then there's other coaches like Coach Nick from Croga, and other coaches from Brickhouse Fitness, and just amazing people, amazing humans that want to help as volunteers. So definitely looking for some volunteers to help me with DEKA. And then you mentioned earlier DEKA Atlas. That one's coming up. Actually, I'm waiting to get approval for June 14th. So if everything pans out, it'll be that second Saturday of June. I'll host the next DEKA Atlas. So would love to see Claudio take that on again. This last time I hosted on March 1st. He and I went head to head at the very end of the event.
Yes.
After a long day of just running the event, judging, and just getting all the athletes through. I remember Claudio saying, "Do we need to do this?" I was like, "Yes, we're doing it." And I internally I was like questioning if I said the right thing, and I said I knew it was the right thing because we felt good, going through it, and obviously you feel the hurt after, but just the energy, the level of the empowerment that you feel and all that, it's good. So those of you that are listening, watching, do take on a DEKA Atlas. Hopefully you try one of mine. I plan to host maybe 4 this year. And so the second one is coming up on June 14th. Claudio, you ready for your quick Q&A here to close up?
Let's do it.
All right. So I asked this of all my guests. I kind of vary them, but it's basically similar questions. So, athletes that want to perform like you or are inspired by your story, they probably want to know what Claudio eats. So what's Claudio's power breakfast? It could be event day, or it could be just regular, going to CrossFit at 5 a.m., which Claudio does.
Yeah, really, for me, the quickest would be protein shake with bananas, right? Like that gives me the carbs that I need.
Yeah.
And the protein. I mean, if I have some time to digest it, right? So like maybe like 45 minutes, 30 minutes before that, that's perfect. Usually what I do.
Awesome. Those are quick and easy and digestible, right?
Easy.
So I love that. What about in terms of hydration? Hydration is key. I know you drink pretty well in terms of what you're feeding your body, especially with electrolytes, you know.
Yes.
What's your go-to drink that you recommend people try or consider when they do these kind of, you know, CrossFit training or just running or high rocks or DEKA?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would just keep it simple, you know, and just have water accessible. That's been the difference for me, right? Because I just didn't. I still needed to build a habit of staying hydrated. So not having my preferred, you know, electrolyte would keep me from hydrating. Like I have water, like in the office next to mine right here. There's filled with water. You know, I have access to it all day. So just making sure I have my timer on, and you know, every 45 minutes I check in with myself. Okay, so, you know, ADHD, so timers really help. And,
Yeah.
okay, do I need some water? Yeah, I need some water.
Yeah.
Take a break. You know,
Love that. I love that.
milliliters, good to go.
So you drink about 1 liter, you said, or how much?
No. It's about like 4 liters a day. Yeah.
Liters? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we tend to not drink enough, right? And that's important. You know, water is life, basically, right? So awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. If you had to model yourself after a superhero or have a superpower, you know, especially doing these kind of things you do, CrossFit, DEKA, high rocks, running, whatever, what would that superhero be, or what would that superpower be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel like those are two questions. So the superpower, I mean, the superhero, I've always like liked the Hulk.
Okay.
You know,
See that?
yeah, I always liked the Hulk. I like the duality, right? Like, okay, you know, he's like a regular introspective person, you know, kind of quiet, stays in the background, but then when there's time to like show up, like he shows up.
Yeah.
Love that. That resonates with me. But if I had any superpower, it'd be the power to motivate others.
That's deep. Okay, I love that. It's interesting you say that, because a lot of my guests say that about motivation, right? So, and that's powerful. The Hulk, I could definitely see. Yeah, you are the Hulk in the group, right? So that's amazing. You mentioned hybrid, you know, events that you want to take on, Spartan, doing a triathlon. Is there any other bucket list goal or event or thing you want to accomplish in life that you kind of have in the back of your head that you're like, okay, I'm going to conquer that in maybe 10 years, 15, 20, 25 years? Like, what are you thinking about with respect to that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, I would say that an Ironman would be a great experience. You know, something that is long distance, resistance, anything that this body needs to adapt to. I think that would be good eventually, you know. But to be very honest with you, like in 10 years, my main goal is to continue to stay active, you know, continue to stay engaged in the community. So one of the biggest things that you have given me is access to this DEKA community. That's been so much fun and rewarding. So yeah, just participating, being part of it, contributing to it, you know, belonging.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, because once you're in it, you know, there's no there's no other more powerful, you know, experience and community to be part of is Spartan DEKA and all that. So yeah, definitely love having you part of that community. All right, ready for your final one?
Yes, what's up?
Okay. I'm gonna make this funny, okay? So how does one get such a nice hairstyle as Claudio?
Oh, you think this is a nice hairstyle? You just let it grow, man. That's it. Yeah, you just roll out of bed, bam, good to go. Easy.
What's the hair product you use, I guess, to tie into that?
Coconut oil.
Coconut oil. Okay. You heard it, everyone watching, listening. If you met Claudio in person,
Keeps it smooth. It looks like I actually have something on, but it's just, you know, it's still really manageable. Yeah.
I love it.
And it
Yeah.
keeps it full.
Yeah, and those that are watching, listening, if you haven't seen Claudio, go on his he'll share his Instagram here in a moment, but you can see him on my Instagram as well under Joe Bala Fitness. He's pictured with me in High Rocks as well as DEKA Atlas and DEKA Mile. I think we have some stuff up. Oh, actually I didn't post some of that stuff. I should post it. But yeah, you'll see his hairstyle. That's why I'm referring to it. I'm sure many people have wondered that, especially if they've met you as a DEKA judge, right? So, all right, Claudio. So I appreciate you being on here. Claudio, how can people reach you if they want to follow your story, your journey?
Yes, so just think of my last name. So it's C.A.R.A.M.B.U.R.U with a dot in between all the letters. I don't know if that made sense, but I'm sure you can share it on your channel.
Yes.
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram and follow me like through, you know, all the events that Joe Bala Fitness is hosting, and I'll be part of that.
Amazing. I love it. Yep. So I'll definitely link to your Instagram. I'll tag you. Those that want to follow, give Claudio a follow. You follow the Hulk in the DEKA world. I think we're just gonna call you the Hulk now. I think I'm gonna get you a green like spray paint and just spray paint you as the Hulk when we go do DEKA Fit teams. That would be amazing. I got to figure out what my superhero character would be. It'd probably be Spider-Man or someone like that because I resonate with him. But yeah, I love it. Thank you for being on here, Claudio. Appreciate you, brother. We're gonna get you on again next time after we do DEKA Fit, and we'll chat about that experience for you. And yeah, follow me on Joe Bala Fitness at JOEBALA Fitness. JoeBala.com is my website. And yeah, look for more episodes coming soon. Thank you guys. Appreciate you listening and watching. All right.
Thank you guys.
Yes, sir. All right. Let me end this recording.